Hello fans of fandom, and welcome to another scintillating slugfest on Grudge Match Unlimited, the show where comparable characters from different fictional universes are brought together to pit themselves against each other to find out who goes home with the crown. Today's episode is bringing together two of the top dispatchers of the dead. It's the Raimi and Campbell wisecracking amputee, Ash Williams, versus Resident Evil's cop-turned-crusader against the hordes, Leon Kennedy. While these two characters have vastly different backgrounds in terms of their personal histories, as well as coming out of different mediums, Ash being primarily out of movies and comics, and Leon Kennedy being primarily out of video games, they have a lot in common in terms of both being fan favorite and very ingenuitive zombie killers in their respective franchises. So diving right in and starting with Ash Williams. Real name Ashley Williams, first created in 1981 for the first of the Evil Dead movies, portrayed by Bruce Campbell and conceived of and primarily directed by Sam Raimi in his movie series. Ash began as kind of just a lovable schlub and an everyman who went to a cabin in the woods with a group of friends where they found the Necronomicon, the Book of the Dead, and when one of them read aloud from the pages, it allowed Kandarian demons to come and possess one by one his friends until Ash himself was all that was left, and he had to fight his way through them, kill them, in order to survive himself. Eventually, in the course of the second movie in the Evil Dead series, he ended up getting sucked into a time portal at the end of the film, and he traveled backwards in time to the time of knights and wizards and warriors, and he ended up fighting hordes of the undead known as the Deadites in order to defend a castle and its people from the scourge of the undead. Beyond the movies, Ash's story has been expanded upon in comic books and even video game series. Throughout the course of the comics, he has had several run-ins with many popular characters. He's fought both Freddy Krueger and Jason Voorhees. He's been in the Marvel universe fighting the Marvel zombies. He's had run-ins with Darkman, Reanimator, and even the President of the United States. So he's had a lot of run-ins and a lot of time fighting the various undead and demonic characters, and he uses a variety of weapons to do this. Throughout the course of the movie series, specifically in the second film, Evil Dead 2, he had to cut off his own hand when it got possessed by a demon. So he cut his own hand off with a chainsaw, and he has come up with ways to compensate for being one-handed. The first thing he did was modify the very chainsaw he used to cut off his own hand so that he could attach it to his stump, and he effectively gave himself a chainsaw hand. Then in the third film in the series, The Army of Darkness, he created and built from scratch a mechanical prosthetic hand, which works perfectly well in terms of being able to recreate the use of his hand, as well as giving him a little additional strength and invulnerability in that hand itself. His primary weapon, his favorite thing to use, is his double-barreled shotgun, which he refers to as his boomstick, a 12-gauge double-barrel Remington, which he favors quite a bit in combat. He also will frequently use small homemade explosives, as he was a bit of a fan of studying chemistry in high school, and he kept some of his chemistry textbooks, and so he creates his own black powder explosives from time to time. Ash's cynicism and wisecracking attitude belays a very keen intellect and extreme resourcefulness, and he has a habit of using practically anything he can find around him to dispatch the legions of the undead that he finds himself constantly fighting against. Leon Kennedy of the Resident Evil series was first created in 1998 for Resident Evil 2, where he was a rookie cop at the time and completely unknown about the elements of the Umbrella Corporation and the T-Virus and the undead from the previous game. And he came back for later installments of the game in Resident Evil 4 and Resident Evil 6, and he also popped up in various other non-canon games and films, both animated and live action. After the events of Resident Evil 2, and when he survives the overrunning of Raccoon City, he goes on from being a police officer to become a government agent, and he works primarily for the government in all of his future appearances. Much like Ash, Leon found himself unexpectedly thrown into a battle with the undead when he knew nothing about them previously and was seemingly unprepared for such an event. But he afforded himself well and ended up being able to dispatch the undead quite effectively through the use of a variety of weapons himself. Primarily, Leon uses a handgun, standard issue handgun that was given to him when he became a police officer, but throughout the course of Resident Evil 2 and then into the future games, he uses a variety of other weapons as well. Shotguns, machine guns, even explosives and rocket launchers from time to time. The drawback of all of these is that it's almost impossible to carry all of them simultaneously. All of the Resident Evil games have a limit on how many weapons and items one can carry, and he has to deposit the rest of them in various holding boxes throughout the course of the game. So at any given time, Leon can only have 1 or 2 weapons on him before they become too much to carry. And this probably mirrors real life as well. One couldn't be quite that effective with 10 or 12 guns weighing them down. But while Leon starts off the game series as a relatively naive and unknowing everyman character himself, a rookie cop who's never really been in that many harsh experiences himself, he becomes much more hardened throughout the course of the game series, becomes a top-tier special agent for the government, becomes an expert at dealing with undead and the Umbrella Corporation and all the creatures of the T-Virus, which don't just include the reanimated dead, but also mutated monsters of all types. And he becomes very, very adept and skilled at dispatching all of these creatures. So who's going to come out ahead when these two zombie slayers collide in one-on-one competition? The winner's going to be Leon. The survivor of the Horde of Raccoon City is going to walk away victorious in this grudge match. When looking at the current canon version of both of these characters, Leon is going to be younger, in better shape than Ash Williams, who is, no doubt about it, getting over the hill at this point. And even when Ash was in his younger days, he wasn't as physically fit and physically skilled as Leon would have been as a police officer, as a well-trained member of the law enforcement community. So Leon's probably going to be a bit faster, a bit more resilient, have a bit better stamina all around than Ash does, as well as might have a bit better hand-to-hand combat skills. And then when it comes to the weaponry that they both bring to the fight, Leon's probably going to end up having more ammunition to allow for a better rate of fire. Ash's primary long-range weapon is a double-barrel shotgun, which does require reloading after a couple of shots. Leon's handgun can get off several more rounds, and Leon may also have a shotgun on him at the time as well, or even a machine gun. Ash's chainsaw hand may be ideal at dispatching deadites and zombies and Kandarian demons, but it's not going to prove that effective against a human who is using a long-range weapon like a machine gun or a handgun. So Leon's going to take the edge in weaponry, he's going to take the edge in being better physically fit, more stamina, more agility. So those two things are going to push Leon a little bit ahead of Ash in this grudge match. So message me down below, let me know what you think of the outcome of this fight, and as always, any suggestions for future grudge matches. We'll see you next time on the next edition of Grudge Match Unlimited.